Welcome to the Career Jitsu podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. His name is Gabe Anderson. Gabe is from Denver, Colorado. I'm not going to hold this against you today, Gabe, but the Denver Broncos quarterback, Bo Nix, I had him in my fantasy football league this year, and he choked. He choked in the playoffs for me. So I won't hold that against you being from Denver. But in any case, Gabe is going to be diving into some amazing stuff here for us today. He is going to connect his experience with jiu-jitsu and his experience in his career that is going to be enlightening for us today. He is a black belt in BJJ from under Amal Easton out of the Easton Training Center, which is a Henzo Gracie affiliate. So he coaches some classes there. And being a black belt in BJJ, he'll definitely have some great connections that he can make for us in his career. Professionally, Gabe graduated from Indiana University. He was a director of operations. He recently has founded a company called Ninth Degree Consulting, where he works on strategic marketing and branding, and he will dive into all of that. And most importantly, well, in my opinion, most importantly, is that he is the founder of Nine Lives BJJ Apparel. And the reason why I say most importantly is because Frank and I and Gabe have all had a chance to chat a little earlier, and we decided that Gabe will be a sponsor of our Career Jitsu podcast. And so, which is
Raise the roof.
amazing. And so we will put any of this information in the description for you so you can click on Gabe's website, which is called ninelivesbjj.com, and he has some amazing apparel. So you can click on there and take advantage of some amazing gear. So welcome to the podcast, Gabe.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason.
We are
And
fired
Frank.
up today. Our pleasure. You can call me Frank or the Clock Burner, whichever you like. And listen, to our listeners, this is going to be a fascinating conversation because Gabe, obviously, it's just interesting because he's a black belt. That enough is very cool. But he's also an entrepreneur, and he's also he's overcome some serious health issues and really bounced back, which is an inspiring story in itself. So we have lots of things to cover. We're very excited for you to be here. And we're just going to kick this off, Gabe, with how did you ever hear about jujitsu? When did you get into it? What was your first experience like? And then a little bit of the journey before we
Yeah,
get into your career.
absolutely. Well, again, thank you guys, Jason, Frank, Clockburner, for having me. And my jujitsu career started. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, as Jason shared, but I went to Indiana University. I was considering swimming there. That's what brought me to the Midwest, but then ended up visiting and really liked the school. About my junior year, I think it was junior or sophomore year, the school offered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for class credit. And mind you, this was 2002, 2003 time period. So it was early days of jujitsu, and having it taught at university level was pretty cool. It wasn't cool for me at the time because it was all my roommates that were taking it. So they would come home and drag me off the couch, twist me up. And I was like, not for long. I'm taking the class. And I have an addictive personality, as most of us do. And I was hooked. And so I started, going to club team practices, and that, became a big part of my college kind of career, was practicing jujitsu. And then moving back to Denver, it was, I serendipitously, after a little bit of time, had Easton Training Center open up around the corner. So, and then full circle, I'm actually working with Indiana University BJJ club team, who's having their 25th anniversary. I'm helping them design some gear right now.
Wow. Wow. That is
Awesome.
awesome. Imagine getting college credit
Oh,
for taking jiu. I mean, okay.
I think it's my
Anybody
only.
out there, well, if you're going to get an A plus in something, that's something very useful, right? There's a lot of core curriculum that we don't really need, and so that's a good A plus to get. And for any college and universities out there, and even high school, think about this. Think about offering Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You are going to enrich your students so much. I'm trying to get a BJJ club at my school, and they're all for it. There's just no space in the gym. They just don't have the space. But other high schools, you should consider it. They have wrestling. You can make it safe. You can have no cranking on bars. I love that. And that's in 2002. That's amazing. That's good for you. And what a difference they made in your life. Think about that.
Man,
Whoever implemented that program, you got to write that person a thank you letter,
right?
right?
And those are formidable people in my life. There's Matt Strata, there's Kadar Bat, there's Greg Lucas, who was kind of he wasn't around as much, but he had a school in the area. And then it was all under Kaike out in California. So shout out to all those people for making a difference in my life, for sure.
Make sure you send this link to them
To
so
them,
they
yeah.
can watch that and feel that gratitude. So that's your BJJ journey, and I'm sure you have a lot of cool stories that you could share about that growth process. But I want to just get into your career now. So you went to, I'm sorry, the University of, it's slipping my mind,
That's right.
Indiana, was it?
Indiana, Bloomington,
Yes,
Indiana
okay.
University, Bloomington. Yep.
Bloomington. Yeah, isn't that the Kelly School of Business there? That's a good school. That's got a good reputation. So you went there and you minored in business, and then talk to us about your career pathway. How did it
Yeah.
go?
So you've seen a pinball machine before?
Yeah.
My career after that kind of went like that. So lots of bouncing around, and definitely was not siloed and deep in one area after college. So that's come full circle in a lot of ways where it's really benefited me. But I bounced around from, door to door sales, website marketing, which, has come full circle as we'll likely talk about.
I'm sorry to cut you off. What did you sell door to door? Because I did
Yeah.
that too in
Yeah.
high school. That is the hardest job. If you can do door to door sales, that's like doing street fighting.
Yeah.
That is the hardest. That's so much harder than corporate sales or B2B sales. So just tell me a little bit about that and what you
Yeah.
learned from that.
And I threw out door to door, but it was business to business. So I was knocking on business doors, but it was selling
Like cold calling.
internet cold calling, internet and phone service, selling that door to door
Yeah.
business. And guess what? Most people have that. It was tough, but I built some really strong friendships from that. I built some really tough, thick skin from that. So yeah,
Exactly.
I wouldn't
So
change it.
okay,
Rate it.
so you did that, you bounced around, you had some door to door, some sales, and then when did you finally find your path towards your businesses that you're doing now?
Couple months ago, I think. No, no, it's been a long journey, It's taken me some time, and I think that's an important lesson for anybody. You've never arrived, right? It's always this constant learning, constant growing, constant moving target, and I still feel that to this day a little bit, even though I've got a business. Well, the business might shift and it might pull me in a new direction. I thought it was going left, and oh, we're going right. Like this is what's hitting. So I had was part of a clothing business with a couple buddies where we manufactured men's clothing. So that was my first endeavor into entrepreneurial kind of, production. And a lot of people at the gym when I was training at this time, and they would be like, Gabe, you do this. Why don't you make gis? And I was like, no, I know the downfalls of this. That's why I don't make gis. That's why I'm not going to do this. But then I had a little bit of a light bulb moment where I thought, hey, I could do this, a little bit different. There's a few changes that I could make that would make this interesting and more of a hobby business. And so I started playing around with, ideas of a business plan, things like that. And that's how Nine Lives Jiu-Jitsu Kimonos was born. And that was 2013-ish was when the idea started, and started selling stuff in 2015.
So what was the niche that you said I could do this better or I could do this a little differently? What did you see that you wanted to put into the market that either didn't exist or didn't exist to your expectation?
Yep. Great question. And Frank, really what it was is at that time when I was searching for gis, um, and again, this was 10 plus years ago, nothing aligned with what I thought my personality and sense of style was. There was a lot of skulls, a lot of like tribal kind of things, and that there's something for everybody. A lot of people, that's their jam, but for me it was or the things that did align, it was you couldn't get a hold of it. It was the shoyu rolls of the world where it sells out and it's hard to get a hold of. So I just wanted to make something that was a little bit playful, a little bit fun, and also had some streetwear influence, some, some brand influence of things that I really liked and wore on the streets, like that type of things.
So you would say your avenue, your niche, your value proposition, as it were, would be a stylistic thing rather than like a fit or a material. It was more of the attitude, the vibe of the clothing that you were
Yeah, but
focusing on.
I would push back a little bit on the fit because the fit aligns right there with the stylistic piece. And so fit was important to me. I really judo gis is not my style, like big sleeves or things like that. I like the more form fitted gis, and that was important to me as well, for sure. But yeah, you're exactly right.
So your like quality level, I haven't been in this all my life, so I don't know all the brands, but like I know Origin is a really nice brand. I like them. They're very comfortable for me. Are you like at that high level or medium level or like a
Sure.
more economical level? Where would you categorize your product?
Sure. I would say, we are a premium brand with attainable prices. I'm, a bit of a fanatic for them as well, just in how they're doing it. That is a behemoth of a company compared to me. I don't have looms. I'm not weaving my own material. I wish that, I could draft off of Made in the USA and some of the cool things that they're doing, but they are a unique player in this game and a really cool one. I think, a lot of people deserve to support them, and I've written that on my blog, honestly. Beyond them, it becomes a little bit of a commodity. Gis are a little bit of a commodity, right? Like you're being made in the same factory, regardless of if it's a different, you know, account manager and face that you're talking to. There's very few factories that are making it. So it becomes a bit of a commodity. So that's where, to me, and as a brand, somebody who's really focused on branding, it comes back to, well, does this represent who I want to associate with, right? Is this my crew? Is this my, does this fit my vibe? Um, and then like, beyond saying, okay, yes, stylistically, I feel like I align with the designs or whatever of any brand. I also put a lot into customer service and just building like a community. I really like talking to my customers, like delighting them. I screw up, I'm human,
Delighting.
and to me, I almost get a little excited when I screw up because I'm gonna make them remember that in a positive way. I would rather, you know, hopefully nobody takes advantage of this because 'cause we're saying it publicly.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mean to cut you off, but one of the things I teach in my marketing because I used to do my own business, I would always say, making a mistake, if you make a mistake with a client, you mess up, you drop the ball, that sucks. And it's going to make your stomach churn and crinkle. However, once you get over that, if you address that mistake, you can actually make up for the mistake and be higher ranked than if you just delivered what you said because they see the humanity and then they see that, wow, you actually not only made up for that, but you made up plus something. So they're almost happy that you made that mistake. And now you've got a loyal customer for life. So mistakes, just like in jujitsu, just like on the mats, mistakes are opportunities where you get the most growth from, right?
Yep. I have a buddy that said, it's just tuition payments, right? Like, you lose money, well, what did you get in exchange? Like, what did you get in
Tuition
return?
payments.
There's always something, and, I've made some tuition payments where my inventory wasn't, like, accurate and one gi was off and somebody ordered that gi, and I'm like, "Okay, well, then you get to replace that, you get to exchange, and you get, whatever, 30, $50 in a gift card or something like that." Like, again, making
Right.
making them walk away, be like, "Whoa, I still got a gi, which is what I wanted, and I got, a little surprise and delight." So, yeah, I
Right. And
very
you
much.
do more than gis on your site, just so our listeners know. You've got t-shirts, rash guards, like mugs, and if our listeners definitely after you listen to this, just click on the link. It'll be right there. There's just what I like about your designs is you have a nice variety of like a little bit edgy, and then you have very organic as well. And you have the range. And all of your designs are absolutely beautiful. So
Thank you.
you really kind of you went from the gis and then you spread out to different
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild what you can do nowadays with the opportunity to do a lot of things, and it's just fun. It's fun to make stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of opportunity, Gabe, when you first started talking about being a pinball and a pinball machine, I thought to myself, well, that's a lot like jujitsu, how you feel when you first start doing jujitsu. You kind of feel like a pinball, right?
Good
And
analogy.
yeah, I thought that was a great analogy. Opportunity when you are a pinball, that's in a way a good thing because you're able to see opportunities better. You get thrown one way and you're like, oh, there's a different opportunity right there, right? So I really like that concept. And you kind of did that with your apparel because I think when we talked earlier, you mentioned about opportunity being like a two-way road. And I think you have this twin path there with Nine Lives BJJ Apparel and with being a black belt in BJJ, right? They're obviously tied together. So you have a twin path there that you kind of found and took advantage of the opportunity to start a business that you were familiar with and you knew about. So kudos to you for leveraging your experience in jujitsu and leveraging that in business.
Thank you, thank you. I knew, I really enjoy jujitsu, and I knew for me specifically, it wasn't going to be a career path from opening a school or anything like that. But I knew it was so embedded in my life that I wanted to be anchored to it and as closely associated to it without me doing it as a job.
And you did that. You also did that with Ninth Degree Consulting. Can you tell our listeners? I think you had some experience in operations in a company that was also marketing, right? Before
Yes.
this, they also did marketing. So you gained some experience there and then you went off on your own. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that growth path?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I actually had even a full marketing agency prior that kind of didn't go the way we had initially imagined with business partners and things like that. But ultimately, that was really a blessing in disguise. I went back and kind of, as you said, Frank, I like punched the clock for some other people. I had some time to do non-entrepreneurial, just working for someone else. And that always gives me a lens that you're not always the teacher. You need to be the student at times, right? To tie it back into exactly what you guys are all about. And that lens like slingshotted me into ninth degree from a standpoint of, oh, I have a very clear picture of what I want to do. The timing is right. The timing within, yeah, we got a cat there. I love that,
That's Mrs. Kitty. Mrs. Kitty has her black belt.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can't see it
Uh,
because she's black.
Black on black.
so like that kind of slingshot and opportunity and timing was super important for me to take and my previous learning lessons and my tuition payments and my knocks and things that had kind of pushed me down and say from jujitsu I have learned I don't stay down, right? Like I get back up, and sometimes that's after tapping, right? It's not
Right.
that I get
Right.
kind of pushed down and get back up all the time without a little bit of a humility. It's that, you sometimes get humbled really hard. Man, but anybody that does jujitsu knows that, you after a couple years doing this, you've got that grit to say, I always come back. Right. Even if you cry on the way home, we always joke about like crying on the way home. But then the first thing you're thinking about is when do I get to do this again? Like, I might have gotten mauled today and destroyed by somebody, but I'm thinking about it constantly, and I'm like, "When do I get to do this again?"
And that's what inspired Nine Lives, right? The name Nine Lives, right? Because cats have nine lives, right? And you think you said that that was kind of what inspired you to kind of create that name and that brand. And it was also inspired by your mom, was it as well?
I kinda came to this and I honestly didn't make the connection, which is kind of ridiculous, but I grew up with, my parents got divorced at a relatively young age, and most of my time was spent at my mom's house, and she worked out of the house, but she has, and to this day, runs a 40-plus year business writing jury verdicts for jury outcomes. So it's called Jury Verdict Reporter of Colorado. She had done that for the entire span of my life. And so I saw the flexibility, the freedom of entrepreneurship I was punching, putting labels on things when I was a little kid. And I had this moment with my daughters putting labels on shipping packages for Nine Lives. And I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of had this light bulb moment that I did this with my mom. And I think that was part of where my entrepreneurial spirit came from, is seeing her as this, always present because she worked out of the house, but also like she took care of us. Like she, ran this business that supported our family. So it was pretty cool. And it took me like, it was like a meandering path to realize that, but certainly one that was made a strong impression on me.
Yeah, since we're on the personal side of things, Gabe, let's bring to light in this podcast the most inspiring part of this podcast that I think our listeners are going to get from this. So you told us earlier about what happened to you in 2020. So can you talk about that and what that has done for you?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a little bit it's half easy and half hard to talk about. Half the half that's easy is like I love raising awareness of this type of stuff. Hard is like I don't like to use this as a crutch. So I'll preface with that because take me as I am. I don't like being seen as anything other than just, somebody getting through the life. Everybody's got struggles. Everybody gets through things. A lot of people have gotten through much worse than I have. But the cards that I got dealt, I, kind of realized, well, this was like July 3rd, 2020. I had trained early in the morning and we were going on a trip with my family. Came home packing up the car and I started sweating, and it was early, but it was early, or like it was warm out, but early enough where I was like, it's not that hot out. Why am I sweating? I like went inside. I was sweating through pants and went and got in the like cold shower and was kind of, freaking out. Just my young daughter was there, which she would have been like, man, 4. So she was pretty young and she was the only one home. And like all of a sudden I realized basically something very bad is happening. And I was trying to get a hold of my wife. She had my phone, and end up getting a hold of my wife, to compress the story a little bit. She comes home. We rush to urgent care because this was COVID times, and it was like, man, COVID is terrible. This is no fun. I get there, people are fleeing from being anywhere near me because I am a mess, just like hyperventilating and writhing around. My wife kind of goes mama bear on the people, like, get him back there. Something's going on. I get brought back and they do some tests and they're like, you're having a heart attack. And I almost had a little bit of relief because if you've ever gone to the doctor and they don't know, they're like, I don't know, we don't know what's going on. Like, that's the worst feeling. So I had a little moment of relief of like, okay, you know what it is. So then I got, kind of calmed down. They put the nitroglycerin pills and, open up the arteries type of thing. I get put in a ambulance, sent over to the hospital, and pretty much right away I'm getting surgery to get a stent put in. So this was a tear in my left anterior descending ventricle. So it wasn't cholesterol related. It was just a tear in my heart, which is actually more common in women and misdiagnosed because not a lot of women have heart attacks. That's not a first, chest pain type of thing. And they're like, oh, you're having a heart attack. So then kind of on the way out of the hospital, they give me a sheet and they're like, by the way, you have a bicuspid valve. It was kind of this afterthought thing that had nothing to do with the heart attack, but a bicuspid valve instead of a 3-leaf valve that kind of looks like a Mercedes-Benz symbol. I had a 2-leaf valve that opens up, 2 leaves instead of 3. So it's not quite as efficient. I start doing cardiac rehab, kind of coming back. I'm getting back into things. And it happened in July. Right about October, my cardiologist had been doing all kinds of tests, can't figure out anything. And he says, hey, you need to come in and talk to me. I said, what's going on? He's like, you need to come in. I was like, oh, good. That's not encouraging. So I get there and he said, you have an aortic aneurysm. So the where the valve aortic root is, it was causing basically like ballooning of the aorta where it's attached. And if that ruptures, basically he said, you hope that you're on the operating table because otherwise, it's bad news. And so he's like, stop doing cardiac rehab. You can't get your heart rate over, it's like 100 or 120, some ridiculously low number. And I was on blood thinners from the stent that was put in. So then it was hurry up and wait. And in a year, we can go in and operate and have surgery or like get surgery and fix this, repair it. So I have to wait till August of 2021. And then I get open heart surgery. They go in, repair the valve. And, that's a weird process because they say, hey, do you want either a tissue valve, which will basically potentially last only about 10, 15 years, or do you want a mechanical valve? Mechanical valve, you're on blood thinners the rest of your life. Well, jujitsu and blood thinners, I was like, I'd rather, have the tissue valve and come back and do this again. So I said, and this was kind of like worst case scenario. If we can't repair it, then what do you choose? And I said, okay, I want the tissue valve. Well, I was, 39 years old at the time. My cardiologist, I find out after that he put a little bit of extra time in to my repair because he did not want to put a tissue valve in somebody my age, which was pretty cool. So it worked out in my favor that he put a little extra time in. But long story short, or long story long, I guess, but the punchline is it was repaired. I'm now, cleared for almost any activity. I'm pretty much off any medication. I'm just taking baby aspirin and that's about it. And man, full recovery. Yeah, it was a wild time because of my competitive spirit. When I couldn't be on the mat, one of the things I did was I worked with the American Heart Association, raised money and awareness for them, and actually won a competition where I raised $24,000 for awareness about heart disease because you can't, throw a rock without hitting somebody that has somebody in their family that's been affected by it. So that's a
And you
big.
got an award from the American Heart Association for that too, right?
Yeah. Yep. I was a winner of it was a Leaders for Life competition that, yeah. So kind of,
Wow, that I'm very aware of that entire process because I have a friend, personal friend, who's going through that, and he's older than you, but he's still young. You were very young for that. Your doctor must have told you that most people have this. It's easy. They're like, just you put in the mechanical one. I never have to worry about it again. But they don't do jujitsu,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or they're so old that they're like, yeah, give me the 10 years. After that, I'm probably not going to make the 10 years. But
Yep.
for you, that was a very difficult decision to make. And for your doctor to say, let's do everything we can avoid putting in that flesh valve. Usually it's a pig valve, right? A lot of times they use a pig
Yeah.
valve.
Like pig or cow, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, they use like other, but they don't last. Yeah, they typically last 10 years, and then you got to go open up again. So praise the Lord on that one, man. You really
Amen.
somebody's watching out for you, and so tell us a little bit about when. Okay, so you were out of commission. You were not doing jujitsu for how long?
So it was during COVID. So that was kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise in that there was a
All your
big,
friends weren't getting better than you.
like, I think I would have struggled a lot more if that wasn't during that time. And, I just know
Did-
myself. But
Yeah,
I was going to a garage gym with a buddy and like a handful of buddies. And for a while I would drill and I would have a heart rate monitor on and
man, you were serious.
they would be like, Gabe, stop it. Like, so I had people taking care of me when I was a stubborn idiot.
So the
Man, that's,
community
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Like the
Yeah.
that
community
we
of,
all talk about, that beautiful community in jujitsu, that these people, we all take care of each other in jujitsu.
yeah, and the irony of it sounds silly to say that, but like I'm worse at taking care of myself than these people are. Like they're taking better care of me than, which again, like what a crazy thing to think about. But yeah, I love this community for that. Like I'm sitting here with ninth degree only launching a little over a month ago because of jujitsu, 100%. Because the guy that is my main client right now is a 15-year friend through jujitsu.
I have to bring this. I'm sorry to cut you off. But I
No.
have to bring this up. Our last guest said that jujitsu is the new golf. And it's a lot of connections that you make in jujitsu the kind of connections you used to make in golf
Yeah.
are now becoming the kinds of connections you make in jujitsu for the networking. Like these people, they trust you with their life, right? In a rear naked choke, they trust you. so they can trust you in business as well.
You know what's funny? I've got a like hidden page of Nine Lives that has golf stuff on it with the same logo. And a lot of it talks about grips. And I mean, there's so much correlation over. It's funny.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. It's a philosophy that extends its tendrils everywhere. That's
absolutely.
the coolest thing about it.
Yep.
So the 9 lives, I just want to make a shout out. We all get these 9 lives. When I roll with Big Juan, he takes 8 of them from me, from his pressure. So
Thank God
shout
you
out
have
to Big
9,
Juan.
Frank.
I know I got that one left,
Got
so
that
I
9,
can't roll
got
with
that
Big
9
Juan.
life.
I can't roll again with Big Juan or it's over.
Yeah. But no, on a serious note, though, talk about perspective, talk about life perspective here for our listeners. Here's a guy who was training jujitsu, everything was fine. Everything was going well in his training. And then all of a sudden, ends up with this heart issue and has open heart surgery and has to try to come back to the mats and continue training. And thankfully, like you said, thankfully, the community that you had around you, the wonderful thing about jujitsu is that you have a community around you that is willing to lift each other up when you're down, and having people around you that were understanding how important it was for you to be back on the mats in some capacity. No excuses to people who have injuries if they hear this story, because we're talking about somebody who had to come back from an open heart surgery, never mind a broken arm or a twisted knee.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm careful because the person that had it the hardest was my wife, like straight up. She experienced like because it was not all fun. Like I was not a pleasure to be around at times because I'm laid up in bed, right? Like, but to go to your question, like perspective, there's gonna be seasonality to everything in life, right? There's seasonality. And sometimes seasons feel like where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Like this is long season. And some of those seasons are maybe even harder, but compressed into a shorter time period. So I just think, the more life experience we have, the more we're have a little bit of here's what's important. What is truly important? What is the focus of life? What is the meaning of why we're here? Where's that balance? And yeah, this situation, sorry if my phone's dinged. I tried to
Is that me or is
Oh,
that
it's
I don't
me.
even know.
It's
Okay.
me, and I tried to turn
Don't worry
everything
about it.
I don't know.
It's all good.
So I apologize. But it truly is like, brings to light what is most important. And, a lot of that is, health, right? And family and, living this life. Like what I don't want to, I want to experience life. I want to enjoy life. And how do we create that longevity taking care of ourselves? Because the best time to realize that is right after you've been injured, right? You're like, oh man, it's really nice to have a working foot right after you do something to your foot. And so trying to have that perspective when you are in the easy season or the smooth sailing, storms are coming for all of us. Like there's no escaping it. So one, mentally preparing for there's a, Dave Kovar, who has 6 or 7 martial arts schools in Sacramento, California. He's like, I consider him a mentor. I consider him a friend. He has this mastery mindset, leadership mindset. And one of the things that he says is, if you can make it worse, you can make it better. And I love that because that is every situation, right?
Yeah,
If,
I love
if,
that.
Like that.
if I'm getting hosed on the mat, I know I can make it worse in my head, even if I have no tools, right? Like take away all my tools, I can make it worse with just my thoughts. I'm losing this. Oh, I'm about to get choked. Oh, like, man, I want to give up. If you can make it worse in your head, you can also make it better. You can flip that switch and have positive thoughts and be like, okay, he thought he had me, but now's the time when I turn it on and I'm gonna give it my all and watch out. And I think that's so important from a perspective of life, because when you get kicked down, the easy thing to do for a lot of people, and I realize this, is cover up in the blanket, curl up and ball, and be like, "Woe is me," and doesn't do any good, right? Like, how do we take action? How do we say, "Okay, like this sucks. This is a tough knock, but it's also an opportunity." Like, there's always an exchange. right? I love this. There's always an exchange too. Like there's a price to pay. You get a grip on me. Okay. But now we're connected, right? That's not a one-way street. You're connected to me. Like you're stuck in here with me as much as I'm stuck in here with you.
Yeah.
I
Moving
love that.
from
Wow.
neutral because, you're in a neutral position, and like you said, like go one way or the other, right? And having that right perspective is important. That mindset of not quitting, like when you were on the mats recovering from your surgery too, knowing that you don't need to take your mind and your body sometimes when you come back from an injury, especially coming back from something like you did, your mind and your body are in two different places. Like you want to go hard and you can't. So that must have been a challenge for you, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, like it's still a challenge because it's still, that
Yeah.
voice doesn't go away. Even if, half the time when I'm saying things like that, like, oh yeah, you can make it better, or if you can make it worse, you can make it better. I'm reminding myself that too. I am far from perfect at any of this stuff. It's just I have to constantly say it to remind myself too, because I'll get in my head and be like, oh, is this my cardio or is this a health issue? Like, can I cop out on this? Like, not that I want to, but like, man, it's not an easy thing to do, and I really try to reset and notice when I'm doing it and change that narrative.
Yeah, Gabe, you actually have an excuse to burn the clock. Frank, on the other hand, Frank, I think
I'm
people are going to
58
start
years
thinking you have
old. I'm 58 years old, and my gas tank doesn't last 5 minutes. There, I said
people
it.
are going to start thinking you have some serious medical issues, Frank, if you keep burning the clock the way you do.
Well, my gas tank is a serious medical issue. I've got a big heart. I just don't have a big gas tank of cardio with these young bloods. You know what I'm saying? These young bloods, they got a lot of energy.
They're
They're
so
savages in there.
right?
That's not
Calm down,
easy.
guys. Let's calm down.
Yes, slow. I always tell people, let's work, let's talk, let's go slow, unless I get on top, and then I'm a total dick.
Yeah.
Let's go. This is a combat sport.
They're like, "What was all that? Let's talk." I was like, "Oh, that was when I was bottom." Things
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah. I think the tables have turned.
It only
I've got only
applies when I'm in
one
a
minute
bad
left.
position.
That's exactly correct. That's going to be my next book about how to act when you're on the bottom and how to act when you're on the top. Two different people, Jekyll and Hyde. You know that. My gosh, we got so
Yeah.
much good stuff here. Jason, you have any extra? I have one more question actually that I just it's a little off. Yeah, it's a off topic. Jason, you had it in your notes. I thought it was just a really relevant topic, and I'm always thinking of my students because I know my students listen to the podcast. College. Is college today less relevant and less vital to being a successful entrepreneur or successful anything than it used to be? I want your opinion on that, Gabe.
Can all the listeners sign some sort of waiver that they won't come after me for my answer?
No, we're at
The
the clock
professors
burner.
at there's just the
Yeah, right, right.
but
Oh man, I've got thoughts on this for sure. I think right now it's really expensive education, and I don't know how much if you're not very specialized in what you're studying. I don't know that it does what it used to do for the career path. Now, if we're talking for the social path and the social like changes in your life and how to live on your own and how to interact with others and do your own laundry and cook for yourself, that's a different story. But you can go live on a college campus and live with some roommates and have some of that experience. And, you know, I find it's a tough conversation right now because of we're at this tipping point and I don't think anybody knows what's on the other side of that tipping point. And, when you're seeing folks that are getting out of college right now and some of these like entry level jobs going away, it's tough because that's the jobs that you're gonna get right out of school. You're getting entry level jobs, and there is a wave of we are becoming 10, 20x operators individually with the help of AI. Like, and some of that is because the tasks that we shouldn't be doing as humans are allowed to be outsourced and outsourced to AI. And that's some of that is just stuff that it can do it faster and more accurately. Certain things it cannot. And I think there's always got to be a human like fingerprint and a human element to what people are putting out there from, a creative standpoint or from, a review standpoint and a critical thinking standpoint. I think where I'm most nervous, even about like take it back from college and put it in high school, middle school, elementary school, like they're using AI and they're using it like, got the answer, boom, send it, deployed. Right. And I'm like, well, you have to put your brain on it and think about it critically. And it's say, is this really what I want? Or think about how you're prompting it and not just like, something very basic. There has to be some thought and some critical thinking that goes into the the input and then the review of the output. And I think that's where I get, a little bit nervous with AI, because I think that's where the younger generation that is going to be coming up with this hasn't had to go through the tough part of doing it from scratch. But I don't know. I mean, it's a super long-winded answer that if I shorten it down to, I think the education system has a lot to live into for the prices that they're paying for higher education right now.
I think the main point that you said is for the prices. Way back when I was a young man, you can get a college education or you could buy a really nice brand new Volvo. Today, you can get a college education or you can buy half a house, if not a house. So they're charging for, if you ever look at the graph of inflation as normal inflation, what you pay for milk, butter, gasoline, and then you look at the inflation of college, the gap is tremendous. I think that college went up 4 times more than everything else. So on that side, on the money side, they're charging 4 times more. But now I believe they're delivering maybe 60% of what they used to deliver. Boy, I'm going to tell you right now, if I go into any business, I'm going to go into college because they figured something out, right? And that's not for everything. If you want to be a chemical engineer, go to college. If you want to be an international lawyer, go to college. If you want to be a mechanical engineer, go to college. An accountant, fine.
Yes.
But basic like humanities, unless your daddy and mommy are rich, I agree 100% with what you said. Good
Yeah.
assessment.
And it's hard, like, because, yeah, it just is. It's not a fun conversation. I think not like, I don't necessarily want to change people's minds. I want to open people's minds with anything, right? I use this analogy all the time, but if I say, what's the right way to open a banana? And somebody says, oh, you do it with the stem, like the stem side, and they're adamant that that's the right way, then my next question is, how many times have you tried it the other way? Right? Like, if you haven't tried it the other way, then how can you be that sure? And that goes with anything that we're, discussing. And that's what I just want people to have, is a little bit more open mind. And how do you put yourself in the other person's shoes or the other argument, like whatever it is, like looking at things from both sides of the coin, because there's a lot of, I don't cross this line, and I don't look at it from your perspective, with lots of conversations right now. That's one of the hardest things for me going on right now is like, what's to say that we can't at least take a pause and be like, I want to listen to you and I want to understand your perspective. I want to put it up against where I started and then make a critical decision, right? Somebody told me this and I felt like that was good and I'm sticking to it no matter what.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a follow-up to Frank's question, Gabe. Do you think that like personal branding will eventually become more valuable than companies?
Ooh.
That's deep. Deep.
I think it already is, honestly. I mean, without putting a lot of thought into it, because I'm answering on the spot, but I think it already is. Because Ninth Degree, I'm going to use my company as an example. People aren't buying Ninth Degree. They're not saying, I want to be a client of Ninth Degree. At the end of the day, they're saying, I want to work with Gabe, because right now I am Ninth Degree. Career Jiu-Jitsu, if two different guys are all of a sudden sitting here, I'm like, well, that's not Career Jiu-Jitsu. You guys are Career Jiu-Jitsu. So I think it's blended more than people realize. Now, there's an art to that, right? Like, if you say, well, Nike, who is Nike? Like, is that Phil Knight, or is that, it starts to become more of a wash, and when you get into bigger brands and bigger companies. But I think so there's a little bit of a growth trajectory there, but ultimately that could be employees. if Nike has an employee that's out there on the sales team and working with clients, like people are buying into that person. Now Nike's got some big tailwind for that person where they're probably getting into doors and making meetings that a lot of people might not be able to get. But they're still like, if that person's a jerk, they're like, well, I don't want to work with you. Like, so I do think that personal branding is extremely important. I mean, when you're, you know, interviewing for a job, you are a salesperson and you are a salesperson for your personal brand. How you dress, how you, the words you use, the attitude that you have, like all of that plays into, whether they hire you. Resume's there too, but that's another piece of your brand. And so again, I think we're already there. I think sometimes it's just not as prevalent in the lens that we look at it through.
Yeah. So just more and more, not necessarily that the company's not valuable, but more and more.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I think there's tipping points of that where the brand and the company might get big enough where it's something bigger than a person or a couple people, but certainly in the early phases, you are the brand.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you call it your name, Gabe Anderson marketing, or Ninth Degree marketing, right?
Nice, nice. Well, we have branded this part of the show, right, Frank? What time is
Absolutely.
it, Frank? What time is it?
It's your favorite time of the show. It's time where we wrap up some of the major points of our conversation, some of the golden nuggets for you to just take home, take away. And as always, it's so hard for me to pick what things I want to present to our listeners, but I did make some notes, and there are three great quotes that are going to be buried in my tap out time. Three amazing quotes. So I'm excited to get to those. Let's start out with, first of all, I love that you use the word serendipitously in our conversation. I'm always talking to my students about the power of vocabulary, and that word fit in perfectly the way you're talking about your trajectory, your path. Great vocabulary. Kudos to you from a teacher. You got an A+ on your vocab. Another thing, and I think of my students a lot, but this is for everybody. You talked about the pinball machine analogy getting bounced around, and Jason made the point that that's a lot of times where you see your best opportunities and you have your best opportunities for growth. So for people who are younger that are listening to this, and I have so many students like that, and I'm sure there's a lot of college kids like this, and I'm sure there's a lot of noobs in the professional world that struggle with this, like, what the hell am I going to do? I haven't found my passion. I don't even know if I like what I studied. That is fine. You're a pinball in the pinball machine. It's good to get bounced around. Bounce here, bounce there, meet somebody, get a mentor. You're going to find your way just like Gabe found his way. And everybody's been in that pinball machine. Don't let anybody fool you. Once in a blue moon, there's somebody that says, I want to study accounting and be a CPA, and they do it. That's rare. You don't have to do that. Be
And
the ball. Yeah, of course.
can I interject? Sorry to interrupt. One analogy that I think relates really, really well is back to jujitsu. Transitions are where opportunities happen. If you're getting like smothered in mount, that is not a transition where you're there for a little while, right? But
Right.
if you did a big bridge and all of a sudden you see some daylight, that's a transition, and that's an opportunity for you and the other person. And transitions in life and in career, sometimes we don't like them, but that's where opportunity lays for sure.
I love it. I love it. Opportunity is in the transition. That's beautiful. So I also liked, and I already talked about this, the way you said delighting your customer. Anybody in business, that is the ultimate goal. That is the centerpiece of a successful company, a successful consultant, a successful entrepreneur, is to delight the customer. Everything else follows from there. Profit will follow. Don't put profit first, put delighting the customer first. That was great. I love the way you labeled falling down as your tuition payments. That is just a nice word. Everybody, we always say in jiu-jitsu, you didn't fail, you learned. And I love that too, but I've heard that 80,000 times. I have not heard tuition payments, and I'm going to use that. So thank you for that. So the big inspiration I think you gave all of us is that you had this heart attack. You were out of commission for like a year, and you found a way. What I loved is when you couldn't do jujitsu at all, you're like, well, I'm a competitive guy. What am I going to do? You took the exact same competitiveness and you got involved with the American Heart Association, which is building on your personal experience. And then you won a not that it's all about winning, you contributed. I know you contributed a great deal of money and got an award for them. So you just took your grappling savagery and you converted it to something else until you could get back. And then you came back. And which brings us to the next important thing, community. And this is just, I can't help but selling jujitsu as one of the best communities you will ever have. You just said it yourself. The people care about you more than you cared about you. They took good care of you, not only in the sense of taking care of you and helping you get better at jujitsu. Some of these people became your clients. I mean, this is just, that's what jujitsu will do for your career. You also, and I love this quote, if you can make it worse, then you can make it better. I'm going to give Jason a little bit of credit here because one day Jason said this in class and I freaking love it. And I say it to myself every time, which is many times that I'm getting totally smashed on the mats. Jason says, there's really the the philosophy in jiu-jitsu is there's no bad position. There are opportunities from every position. If somebody has you mounted and they're bigger than you have options. There are opportunities everywhere. You just got to calm yourself down, get your frames, think, and go for one of those avenues. If it doesn't work, you go for another one. There's no such thing as a bad position, is exactly what you said in a different way. If you can make it worse, then you can make it better. Love that. And then another quote. You really had a lot of quotes in here that I put stars next to. And this was awesome. And as a teacher, I'm going to use this. I don't want to change people's minds. I don't want to change people's minds. I want to open people's minds. Damn, if there's something that this country needs, education needs, teachers need, that is it. Stop trying to change people's minds. Just try to open them up. Open them up. That is probably, in my opinion, the most powerful quote that you gave out of all of them. Jason, did I miss anything? I know there
No
were so
way.
many things. All right. All right. So that wraps up your favorite part of the program. Tap out time. And it's now time to thank Gabe, our guest, for, gosh, an hour, giving us an hour of your valuable time. You're an entrepreneur. You're doing all this stuff. We so appreciate this. I know our listeners are going to appreciate this. And for our listeners, we have a sponsor. Like, we're getting big here. We have a sponsor. And if you could do us a favor, if you're a listener and you like what we do and you've listened to a few of our podcasts, could you just click on one of those links, Nine Lives BJJ Apparel? And if you're a business, Ninth Degree Consulting will have both of those links for you. Take a look. This is a guy that you want to work with. This is a guy that's going to give you customer service. Take a look at his designs. They're so cool. You know, he's supporting us. We want to support him. So give it a click. And also to our listeners, thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. You're all over the globe now. We're in so many countries. And so keep sharing and keep dropping hearts for us.
Yes. So our call to action is to we got to get this message out. We got to get Gabe's story out there to everyone. So Gabe, I think he mentioned about having a lot of friends that he made from Indiana University. So make sure that those colleagues definitely share this, and anybody else out there. Let's get this story out there so that we can share Gabe's message and spread the love of jujitsu and what jujitsu does for people in their personal and their professional lives.
Amen and hallelujah. It has been a pleasure to connect with you, Gabe. You have a place to visit in Webster, Massachusetts at our gym, and we would love to roll with you. And I will definitely burn a lot of clock before we start rolling.
Let's do it. Jiu-jitsu, it's better than golf, Thank you guys so much. I really, truly, like Jason and Frank, this was a pleasure. So thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure entirely. And just stay on for like 5 minutes.
Will do.
All right,
All right, guys. Thanks, Gabe.
Peace out. Take care.